You know, when you pay your taxes, you're doing more than just funding roads or schools. You're actually funding a trust, a public service that's supposed to work for absolutely everyone. So what's stopping that trust from being broken? Well, that's what we're going to break down today. The ethical rules that act as a kind of unwritten contract between a public servant and, well, you.
This quote right here gets to the absolute heart of it. Ethics in public service isn't just about not doing something illegal or obviously bad. No, it's about a much higher standard. It's about actively, constantly working towards the common good with every single decision that's made.
So, here's our game plan. First, we're going to talk about the why, the moral compass. Then, we'll nail down some key terms so we're all on the same page. After that, we'll get into the specific rules of the game, see what happens in the real world when those rules are broken, and finally, find out who's actually keeping score.
Okay, so let's start with the most important question of all. Why should any of this actually matter to you? The answer is pretty simple, pretty direct, and it has everything to do with the money that came out of your pocket.
Think of it this way. Your tax dollars are a direct investment. They go to pay a public servant's salary. And the return you expect on that investment isn't profit, it's ethical conduct. It's a kind of social contract where the currency isn't just money, it's integrity.
Now, to really dig into this contract, we've got to be clear on a couple of words. People throw around ethics and morality like they're the same thing, but in this world, they have really distinct, really important meanings.
Okay, check this out. Morality is about the practical rules a group follows. It's the what we do, and it can totally change depending on culture and time. Ethics, on the other hand, is the deep dive. It's the philosophical study of those rules. It's the science that asks why we should do something, and it deals with more permanent, universal principles. So, if morality is the custom, ethics is the conscience behind it.
So how do we take these big ideas about ethics and actually put them into practice? Well, they become the foundation for the specific duties and prohibitions. Basically, the official rulebook that every single public servant has to play by.
And these duties are the absolute bedrock. You'll notice it's a real mix, right? It goes from big ideals like being honest and fair, all the way to practical things like being fast and efficient. But it also includes basic human stuff like being courteous and even having the courage to resist pressure and report when something's not right.
And then you've got the hard nose. These are the bright red lines, the things that are just completely off limits. Using your job for personal gain, trying to ruin someone's reputation on purpose, or cashing in on insider info. These are all direct attacks on that public trust we've been talking about.
You know, it's one thing to have a rule book, but what actually happens when somebody decides to break those rules? How does this stuff jump from the page into the real world?
Let's get really practical. We're going to look at a couple of common examples of misconduct to see exactly how these rules play out and just how serious the consequences can be.
First one, time card fraud. It might sound like a small thing, right? Clocking in for a buddy who's running late, but it's a deliberate act of fraud. You're getting paid with public money for work that you're just not doing. It's theft, plain and simple.
And the consequences are anything but small. It kicks off an internal investigation, but it can escalate fast, leading to getting fired for impropriety. And it might not even end there. This kind of thing can actually lead to both civil and criminal charges.
All right, here's another classic, medical certificate fraud. We're talking about anything from messing with the dates on a note to a full-on forgery. And what's wild is that in today's world, it's so easy to get caught. You know, you post vacation photos on Instagram when you're supposed to be home with the flu.
And the official take on this could not be more direct. It's not just unethical, it's not just illegal, it is a crime. That emphasis is there for a reason, because this is a serious offense, way beyond just breaking a workplace rule.
So all of this leads to one last, really crucial question. With all these rules and all these potential problems, who's actually watching? Who's the referee here?
The main guardians are these ethics commissions. Every federal agency has one, and they're not some outside police force. They're made up of other career public servants. So their job is really twofold. They're there to advise and guide people on how to do the right thing, but they're also there to investigate complaints. And if they find a violation, they can issue a censure, which is basically a formal reprimand that becomes a permanent black mark on that person's record.
And that brings us right back to where we started. There are rules, there are consequences, and there are commissions to enforce them. But is that where it ends? If public service really does belong to all of us and is funded by all of us, doesn't that mean that protecting its integrity is kinda everyone's job? Something to think about.